Hey guys, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel, and I got some unpopular opinions I need to get off my chest. You know I love K-beauty. That is no secret. I've been in love with it for almost a decade. Like, it's been a really long time, and I've got years of content here on YouTube sharing that love with you. Nothing has changed, don't worry. But I will say, even when you are so dedicated to like K-beauty skincare, that doesn't always mean that you agree with everything that's happening in the industry or what brands are doing or marketing or ingredients or whatever. And that's what today's video is about. You know what I mean? You can love the products and still have a little bit of a beef with some of the things that go on. And so I want to share that with you today. And hey, if you love K-beauty too, and maybe you're new to my channel, please consider hitting subscribe for way more K-beauty content and skincare from me. All right, let's get into these unpopular opinions. Give the video a big thumbs up and let's get started. Unpopular opinion number one. Eco-washing, greenwashing, and clean beauty. And my first one is really the use of the words clean, non-toxic, and chemical-free. This is definitely a trend that is happening in the greater world of skincare. It's not just a Korean skincare problem, but I've seen this coming up in K-beauty products for the last couple of years, and it's really, really, really trending right now, and it drives me nuts because these words don't mean anything. They're really weaponized against us to kind of plant a certain idea in our mind about the products. And what really drives me crazy is when you use words like clean on the label of your skincare, you are implying that the other brands that don't call themselves clean are actually dirty. And I think that is, I don't think you should be able to do that. I don't think it should be legal to use a word like clean, especially because it's not a regulated term. It actually doesn't have a defined meaning when it comes to skincare and beauty products. What you in your mind are thinking is a clean skincare product is not necessarily what I might have in my mind or somebody else. We all have different definitions of what clean means, and when somebody uses that on their skincare label, they're playing into your perception of what is clean, but they're not actually delivering on a uniform sort of set of standards. I think that's a big problem. I don't think you should be able to use a word like that that is unregulated. I also think it's a very powerful word that is kind of just making other products look bad who are choosing not to use words like clean or non-toxic or chemical-free, which water is a chemical. So how are you chemical-free? Everything is a chemical. Okay, another word that has a certain meaning in your mind, but when you actually look at the science, everything is a chemical. So that's not, you can't make that statement about your beauty product, you know what I mean? It's not full of toxic chemicals that are dirty, okay? They just are not. So I've seen the use of clean, non-toxic, and chemical-free being used in Korean skincare products probably in the last 3-ish years. It's fairly recent. As clean beauty has kind of taken up trend in the greater world, you definitely see it taking a hold in K-beauty. But I do think this trend actually goes further back than that. And I think it started off slightly more innocently, if you will. It was less in your face about how clean it was, and it was more just hinting, hey, we're from nature. And I think this is actually something that has been very popular in South Korea for a very long time, not just in beauty products, but I just think that they really do embrace the motifs of nature and green and animals and flowers. I think that they do have sort of a reverence around that already, and it starts to show up in the beauty products. You'll see a lot of the marketing will be around Jeju Island, actually, which is really, I think people imagine it to be this untouched nature paradise of Korea, right? And I think if you live in Seoul, it probably is. But you'll see a lot of the ingredients are from Jeju Island. That's where you're getting the harvesting the mugwort or the green tea or what have you. So I think that there's just already an emphasis on nature, and they've used it in their marketing to really tell you it's from nature. And as the clean and eco-friendly beauty trend has started to become really hot, that has started to play into their favor. And so you start to see the motifs of nature showing up on the labels a lot more than they used to. You see a lot of the use of the color green, a lot more than you used to. They're using these little visual like clues that, do seem very subtle. They don't seem like a big deal, but when you start to pair them with words like clean, and non-toxic and chemical-free, then of course you're going to start to see how these all play together, how they all kind of come together to maybe trick you. And I just want to say before we go any further that your skincare products are not dirty. Okay, we're talking so much about the use of the word clean. We fail to kind of mention that, skincare is heavily regulated. The term clean is not, but the ingredients in your products are, and they are tested for use on human skin. They are regulated. There are certain restrictions on how much of a percentage that you can use within skincare products. I mean, these are researched and developed and heavily tested for, safety purposes. I think that there is a lot of mistrust or distrust around science lately, and you have to trust the science around skincare products. They're not loading it up with chemicals and toxins that are going to kill you. They are not doing that. And so I think that clean beauty, we have to understand it's playing upon maybe a little bit of fear, maybe a little misunderstanding and distrust that we might have around science, and around the people who are regulating skincare and skincare ingredients. And I think that we have to be a little bit aware of maybe that attitude and that mentality and understand that like science is a very good thing. One other thing that I want to bring up in this section, one more maybe potentially unpopular opinion, I don't know. It is when brands don't have to list certain ingredients under certain percentages on the ingredients list. This is a Korean labeling law. Now, I have really only seen this at play in really the single ingredient products. And so I'm talking about like Misha Artemisia Treatment Essence and the Skin 1004 Centella Ampule, which I actually just recently reviewed. Now, these are products that claim to have just one star ingredient at 100%. And when you look at the ingredients list, that's all that listed. So Misha will say 100% mugwort. And you're like, wow, this is so potent. This is like all the centella and mugwort goodness for my skin. I'm super excited. And that is definitely how I used to feel too. I was like, this is really exciting. But then you might start to wonder, where's the preservatives? If there actually were not preservatives in those products, they would probably come to you moldy, or they would get moldy within a day or two of you opening it. Days of opening it, okay? There are preservatives in skincare, and you want preservatives in your skincare. So I never really had an issue with this, and I always present this information when I do talk about these products that don't list preservatives, reassuring you that they do include them. It's never really bothered me, but I will tell you recently, I kind of got this like aha moment, and then I got mad. And here's where the unpopular opinion comes in, because I do wonder if these brands are using this little weird labeling law to their advantage to kind of give you the idea that this is a super clean product, free from toxins, right? Free from chemicals, because all that's in here is mugwort. There's nothing else in here, guys. Nothing to see here but just nature's goodness. So you kind of start to see how they are subtly sending these messages to you about how it's based in nature, it's clean. Well, there's no toxic ingredients in here, right? It's really, 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 really sending that message. It's just not shoving it down your throat like in a super obvious way. But I will say, I am not trying to expose anybody here, any brands or any products. No, I'm not trying to drag anything here. I'm not a very dramatic person. That's just not who I am. It's not what I'm into. But I do think that it's important to think about these things critically and really start to make these conclusions, because I think it allows us to be more informed and powerful consumers. Because it's fine. Those things are all fine. But if you're able to see through them, I think then we can just get down to the nitty-gritty about products that do or don't work for you. So unpopular opinion number 2 is that there are not any good potent exfoliants in K-beauty. So the first one I want to talk about is retinol. You will not find a potent retinol product in Korean skincare. Just stop looking right now. I actually do get asked about what retinol products do I recommend from K-beauty brands, and there aren't any. I've tried a few. It's not that they don't exist, but there's just not a really heavy tradition around retinol as a must-have ingredient in Korean skincare. Now that is starting to change. Everything is always changing in K-beauty. K-beauty actually changes very rapidly, but I have noticed as K-beauty has become more popular around the globe, and as the Korean skincare industry tries to address their global sort of like attractiveness, you know what I mean? They're trying to serve a global audience, not just their consumers in South Korea. That's when you start to see the retinol, the AHAs, the BHAs start to creep into the skincare products. But even so, even though those products are starting to kind of come into the K-beauty space, I will say they haven't quite nailed it just yet. I'm seeing some products that are like, I think that are doing well, but generally speaking, they're just not there yet. I also think it's important to understand that like in the deep tradition of Korean skincare products going way, way back, their emphasis is more heavily on hydration, moisture, extracts. They're not really that concerned with active ingredients with the retinols and the heavy exfoliants. So I think it's also just important to know where K-beauty is coming from, where they're going, you know, where their goals are now, right? So they just haven't quite done it yet. So the few retinol products that I have seen and some of them that I've tried actually don't really use retinol per se. They're using other ingredients in the retinoid family, most usually retinol palmitate. I think I'm always saying that word a little bit wrong, but it's actually a derivative of retinol. It's like one, two, I think it's like 3 steps down and 3 steps less effective than retinol. So it's definitely in the retinoid family. It can give you some results, but it's not as potent. It's not as much of a wow ingredient. Cosrx made a retinol serum. It's using that ingredient, which I think is a little misleading, but it's definitely going to be a lot more gentle on the skin, maybe not giving you the benefits that you would expect from a retinol product. And so if you are looking to incorporate a retinol into your skincare routine, I say look outside of K-beauty. But I want to point out specifically about BHA. I'm starting to see salicylic acid being used a lot more frequently in K-beauty products, but generally when they state that there's BHA in the product, they're actually using betaine salicylate, which is like a salicylic acid cousin, if you will. It's definitely got the exfoliation benefit, but it's just a lot more gentle. Think about it like a watered down version of salicylic acid. It's going to be gentler on the skin, but it's going to work a little bit slower maybe. And for a lot of people with sensitive skin, that's perfect. I like a lot of products with betaine salicylate in it. I'm not dragging this ingredient, but I just think it's important to understand when a product in K-beauty is claiming to have BHA, more likely than not, not always, but more likely than not, it is containing the more gentler form of salicylic acid. Really important to remember. And I think that's why a lot of people say that their exfoliants aren't effective. It's not that they're not effective. It's just that they're a lot more gentle. I don't think that I don't think it's worth arguing which one is better, right? Like Western or K-beauty when it comes to exfoliants. I think it's just important to know that there is a difference. You know, the AHA that you're getting in like, I don't know, the United States, we'll just say, it might be a different percentage than what you're getting from South Korea. In Korea, the trend is just to do things a lot more gentle and at lower percentages. The trend in the States and in Western skincare is to do it as the highest percentage possible, generally speaking, right? I'm making big generalizations here. So I just think it's important to understand the difference. I'm not saying one is better than the other because like I said at the beginning, I'm somebody with sensitive skin and low tolerance. Most of the time I can't do the Western products because they're too potent. They're too harsh for my skin. But the ones in K-beauty, I'm usually okay with. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but when you're really looking for the highest percentages and the most potent ones, I'm going to say unpopularly, you're probably not going to find it in K-beauty, but that doesn't mean that K-beauty doesn't have a place. It can definitely serve your skin. And my third unpopular opinion about Korean skincare is The beauty standards are a very hard pill to swallow. All right, so the first one is white skin. Like I said, controversy. Yeah, I mean, I am not Korean. Let me just put that right out there. I think it's pretty obvious, but like I am not Korean and I am not from South Korea. So I can only say so much. I will say a lot of people with a Western perspective will look at K-beauty and think that it's quite racist because of the emphasis on white skin. Now, that is putting the Western perspective onto a different culture, because here in the United States where I live, we have a very, very deep and troubled history around racism and skin color, and it's actually still happening. You know, we say it's history, but that's a little bit too far removed. It's happening here and now in the present, as well as the deep, long tradition that we have with difficulties, you know what I mean, around this issue. And it definitely brings up and stirs up a lot of cultural stuff for us as Westerners, right? It does. It does. I'm gonna say it. It definitely can make me feel uncomfortable at times to put so much emphasis on white skin. But it's always important to take a step back and realize you're a Western consumer, right, of K-beauty products, and it's not necessarily being made for your cultural viewpoint. In Asia, the tradition is when your skin was more fair, it meant that you were richer. You had a higher status in society. It was a lot more class-based than it was race-based. So I think it's important to understand that. I think that that is something that Koreans in Korean skincare need to address. I don't necessarily know that it's up to us as Westerners to impose that change on somebody else's culture, but even so, I've heard that it's actually an issue within South Korea with Koreans, native Koreans. So that's why I bring it up. It's a very tangled, complicated issue, but no matter what kind of society or culture you're coming from consuming this product, I think we all have certain issues around skin color that are troublesome. And yeah, I don't like to see that standard being upheld within K-beauty. So another big unpopular opinion that I have is actually surrounding V-lines. Now, if you don't know what a V-line is, it's your jaw shape. It's if you have like a jaw that's a little bit more pointy, more like creating a V. You don't want a round or squared off jawline. It's a lot more attractive to have a more delicate, pointy V-line chin. And so a lot of times you'll see people take pictures like this, and it's to emphasize the V-line, right? I think it's fun. I think it's kind of like a cute little thing to do, right? Definitely. I definitely understand that, and I think I've even made a video about like bringing out your V-line, like doing facial massage to kind of slim your face. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but I do think that it goes a little bit too far when people are having surgical enhancements to shave their jawline to fit this beauty standard of a V-shaped like jaw. You can do whatever you want with your body, you know what I mean? Like, no judgment if you want to have enhancements done. I have no judgment on that whatsoever. What I'm a little bit more concerned about is the fact that we are pushing, I'm saying we, in Korean beauty standards, they're pushing so much for this V-shaped jawline that is actually unattainable unless you do like go under the knife or we're naturally born with it. There's no other way that you can get a V-line. And yet I see products being marketed towards giving you the V-line, slimming the jawline. That's a problem to me. That's something that can really mess with your head if you're really trying to go for the perfection of a V-line. It's just not possible unless you change the shape of your face, and skincare products are not going to do that. Something else that really bothers me, I think, is just generally the beauty standards are so based on striving for perfection. There's no such thing as perfect to me. You know what I mean? I don't think that perfect is real. I don't think that perfect is attainable. The V-line, the perfect skin, the right face shape, the S-line body, right? Like, it's gotta be perfect. And if one little thing is out of place, there is a lot of judgment within the society about that, right? You see that a lot with the K-pop idols. It is 100% standard. You must submit a headshot with a job application. Not even like, like modeling and stuff, like office work. You have to show what you look like, which means perfect hair, perfect skin, perfect face shape. You're going to be judged on that. I think that striving for that level of perfection is just so toxic. I can't even imagine the mental health like crisis that is going to be happening around these types of beauty standards because they're not attainable. It's never going to happen. And if you're constantly like fighting and struggling and chasing for something you're never really ever going to quite grasp, yeah, it's gonna mess with your head. So that's definitely something I think is a dark side of K-beauty and just Korean beauty standards in general. It's not something that I'm super comfortable with within that industry. But I have to say it. It is a toxic mindset that is actually pervasive in all beauty around the world. I think it's important to spark these types of discussions. Even if you don't agree with me, I think it's important to kind of like have these conversations around skincare and products and beauty just in general. I mean, here's the thing. Skincare and your beauty hobby can go as deep as you want it to. It doesn't have to go this deep if you don't want it to, but I think that it can. And I think these conversations should be occurring like in the skincare community because yeah, there's a lot more to it than just if a product works or doesn't. And I think that it just makes us smarter consumers in the long run. So I'm curious if you have any unpopular opinions or if you just want to respond to anything that I said in the video, please let me know. Like the conversation is open in the comments. If you love the video, maybe you didn't hit subscribe yet, please do consider hitting subscribe. It really helps me out. It helps my channel grow. And I do release 2, sometimes 3 new skincare focused videos every single week. So if you want to turn on the notifications, you're never going to miss all the new content that I drop every single week. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I hope you're healthy, happy, and safe. I can't wait for you to go out and conquer this day. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.